In this lesson, I want to share something with you that's near and dear to my heart in Photoshop, but I also think is a bit of a game changer when it comes to working with images inside of Photoshop. Linking smart objects. Now, as a test, go right up to the word File on the pull-down menu, and you should see Place Embedded, Place Linked, and Package. Now, if you don't see all three of those, go out to the Creative Cloud site and download the latest version of Photoshop. What's the difference between embedding and linking? That's a good question. When you embed an image into Photoshop, into a layer, you're saying to Photoshop, give me a copy of it. And you know what? When you're done, throw the original away. I don't need it anymore. When you link, you're saying to Photoshop, keep an eye on the original for me. And if anybody changes the original, I want to see the changes reflected in this document or documents. So the obvious advantage here is, say you're working with multiple designers working on the same project. You're sharing those assets. Designers are making changes. The changes are reflecting instantaneously inside of the documents, and you're saving time, but you're also being consistent. Now, here's my example for you. Got a poster, The Wild Leaves. They're going on tour, and they're going to be in 5 cities for 10 days. So we need 5 different posters. Now, I only have 2, but if you can do this twice, you can do it 100 times. And if I come over here, you can see this one and this one. Now, notice there are things that are the same, like the logo, information down here, the footer. But there are some things also that are different. The things that are the same, if you're working smart, should be linked. Actually, I already have some of this set up to save time, but I will take you through the procedure. Let's go into Footer. Common bottom bar is a linked smart object, and how do I know that? Now look right down here. See that icon? That is all I need to see. I know this is a linked smart object. Now, if you don't have it open, I'm going to come up here and open up my properties. And if you don't see it, go to the word window. You'll find it. When I select this layer, properties lights up. I have an edit content button right here. Remember what linking is. Linking is linking to a physical file somewhere. If I click Edit Content, I am literally opening up that file. See right up here. Now what I'm going to do is add something. So we're going to go into File, this is how you do it, and go into Place Linked. Now what I want is the PlayFest logo right there. And I'm going to place it. And yes, if you're thinking this, I am placing a linked document inside of a linked document. That's kind of interesting, but it does work. Come down here, make that a little bit bigger. Double click. And I've got my Move tool selected, so I'm just going to drag it over real quick, just like that. I can get nice and pretty and fancy by using my up and down arrow keys if I so choose. I'm happy with that. I put it on the footer. The footer is a linked smart object. I'm going to close this one out. We're going to say Save, of course, and watch what happens. There it is. There it is on that one. Total control. It's changed based on the linked original. That's where the power is. Now you'll notice I do have one up here too, and that's the same one. If I come over here into PlayFest logo, you will notice there it is, and that too is linked. So they're all connected together. Let's say marketing comes in and decides they want a change of color on one of these, or actually on all of them because it's a logo. We can do it a couple of ways. But say we come back over into this one right here. We go into Footer, we select it, and we go back into Edit. Now understand you could do it from the other one that was at the top because they're all the same thing. If I select this here by coming over here, there it is, PlayFest logo, and go into Edit Content, let me pull this back for a second. They want the letter F the same color as the letter S. Now I know the numbers for those colors, so I'm going to double click on the F right over here and change these to 240. I'm using the Tab key to get to the next field, which makes it easier. And I'm going to go 100, and I'm going to go 30, just like that, and click OK. That's what I'm talking about. I'm going to save it. And there it is. Now let's go ahead and save this one. Check it out. This one's changed. This one's changed. This one's changed down here because they are all the same file. PlayFest, it could be in a million places, but it's the one file that controls and reflects what we see inside of Photoshop. That's why this is so powerful. Now, we've had an advantage in one respect. we've had the documents open. But what if you had 50 or 60 documents that was using the same image or asset? You wouldn't have them all open, would you? So let me show you a different way to kind of look at this. Let me go ahead and save this one. And let's go ahead and save this one too. And I'm going to close this one. So that one's not open, but they both have a share on Wild Leaves. Let me close this up. I'm going to go into band logo right here. And that again is linked. So I'm going to select it, open up my properties, and say edit contents. Let's take the word wild and let's change it to that same color that I changed the letter F to. And let's go ahead and double click here. Okay, let's come over here, type in 240, tab 100, tab 30. Click OK. Let's go into our FX button down here and let's put a stroke on the word wild, just something small like about 3. Let's see what that looks like. That's not too bad. And let's go ahead and put that on the inside. Click OK. Save it. Now it's reflected here, isn't it? But let me go ahead and open up the other one. Now I'm going to drag it over from my other screen. See, this one didn't change because it wasn't open. If it's open, it's automatic. It's going to change it. If it's not open, it's going to ask you, do you want to change it? So if I come down here, you can see the word changed 1. So it's giving me a visual that something needs changing. But if we come back over here and we go ahead and close footer and we get into band logo, you can see down here that the logo has changed to a warning indicating that it is modified. 1 is changed. Oh, incidentally, the reason I've got missing 0 and changed 1 down here is because I've chosen Smart Objects right there. Very easy to do. Come up to the word layer, go down to Smart Objects, and just say basically update. There you go. Now let's look at one more thing here. Let me go back to this one. Let me go ahead and close some stuff down and open some others. Notice the icon right here. That is an embedded Smart Object. Now if I select it, it says up here embedded, not linked. But if I say edit contents, it functions a lot like a linked Smart Object. It's got layers. Could put it into a black and white mode if we want to. Save it, take it back, it's going to work. But the difference is because it's embedded, it only works in this one document. If I have this particular image embedded in 15 documents and I make a change to this one, it's not going to change the other 15. And you make a decision that, oh man, I should have done that because it's going to be so much easier if they're linked as opposed to embedded. What do? Let's get out of here and let's save it. And if I turn off the overlays here, you can see it did indeed turn it into grayscale. Is it possible to convert something to linked? And yes, it is. You have a button right here, convert to linked. Now it first has to be a smart object. But if I click this button, it will say, what do you want to name it? And where do you want to put it? And if I name it the same name as the layer, it will save it. I can then use that document and go in link in other documents, and then changing that one would change them all. Conversely, if you have something linked, you could later on embed it if you want to do that too. But the control that you have when you're working with these smart objects is absolutely amazing. Now there is one more thing to consider. If we move this document, or if we move the files that they're associated with, it's possible you might see missing down here has a 1 or a 2. So in other words, if I go into the original folder where the links are and pull them out, well, it won't have access to them anymore. If that happens, no big deal. But if that happens, go up to the word layer on the pull-down menu and go down to Smart Objects and choose Resolve Broken Link. Now that means you're going to have to find where the original is. That's up to you. One more thing. If you go up to the word File, we have a package option here. Well, you're going to move this. It's going into post-production. It's going to be printed. Are you sure you have all the files and everything necessary for them to make this work? Package. You click it. It will ask you where you want to put it. The name will be the name of the document. You will have a folder, and inside that folder will be everything necessary to make this work. It's pretty cool. It's a new feature. Let's get out of here. Linked smart objects, to me, are an amazing feature. They can really help you get more efficient, but they can guarantee consistency at the same time. So don't forget you've got them. Don't forget to check out some of our other great learning resources on the Creative Cloud site. I'll be seeing you around. What I want to show you in this video is something that is absolutely amazing. It's a brand new feature in Adobe Photoshop Creative Cloud called Perspective Warp. Now I have a photograph open. I didn't take this photo. It was taken by a company called Photospin. And don't forget, if you want to follow along, you can download the assets for this video. What I want to do first, though, is make a copy of it. I'm going to drag it down. This is one way to do it. Make a copy. That is not necessary. But this way we get to see kind of a before and an after. Now, it will work with just about any image, but your first test is to go up to the word Edit on the pull-down menu and go down, and you better see Perspective Warp. If you don't, no big deal. Just go out to the cloud and download the latest version of Photoshop. Now, what does it do? What does Perspective Warp do? It literally allows me to re-enter a three-dimensional world to change the perspective of the image as if, as the photographer, I change my position. Now, we're going to do two things. One's very easy. I'm going to straighten the buildings out. The other part's more fun. Change the perspective. Now, we've got the tool selected. You do this by building grids, perspective grids. So if I click somewhere, you can see your first grid. Now, we can get in the middle. Let's talk about how this works. Get in the middle, move it around as a whole. Go to a pin, move the pins. Just like that. If I go to the side, top, or bottom and drag, I can move it. But the trick is, if you hold down the Shift key at the same time and move it, it changes the perspective too. Can help you out. The other thing I do like is if you select a pin, you can use your arrow keys to gently nudge it into place. Or get on it, click it, and delete it. Now we need two. We're working with a three-dimensional item that's been compressed two-dimensionally. We need two planes on this. And we're going to use this right here as our dividing line. Click and drag this time. Save you some time in moving it around. Now I'm going to leave it right there. I'm going to come up here and click this one and move it over. And what I want to do is grab and select that line. Now down here, I think I'll use my arrow keys. Do you have to do this? Not really. But if you do, if you spend the time to get these lines down right based on perspective of the image, it's going to save you time later on. So I'm going to come over here and grab this one. And we're going to drag it down. Now I can use these lines to match up with these, and that's what I'm doing. Let's do this one down here too. So what I'm trying to do here is just match those up. Let's come down just a little bit more. Just about like that. That doesn't look too bad. Now we need the other side of our box, if you will. So if I click and drag, I can make another one of these. Now here's the fun part. Grab it right here and drag it over. Don't hold the Shift key. Just drag it over until you see a blue line appear. Let go. Pin to pin, it will match it. We can now do the other side. So what I'm going to do here is bring that over. And again, I can use these lines here against those lines there. And I'm going to try to line that up as best I can. Come down to this one, obviously, and bring that one up. Just about like that. Again, don't forget, you can use your arrow keys if you want it precise. Now, that's not too bad. What I want to do is extend it out. So hold the Shift key before you drag it. Just like that. All right. Now we've got the box built around the buildings or whatever the object is. Come over here and click Warp. Now when we move the pins, it will change it. Now since I took the time to get the angles, and the first thing I want to do maybe is straighten it out, that's going to be much easier. Click this button right here and watch what happens. Well, it begins to straighten it out. But the pins are still independent. In other words, I can come over to this one and still move it if I want to, if I don't like what it did. I find most of the time that if I spend the time to get the perspective, it does help things out. Now you have another one that does your horizontals if you want to do that. We don't. This one does both. This one says, you know what, I so messed this up, I wish I could start all over again. And if you click it, it'll take you right back to where you were. You say, I want to redesign the whole thing. You can click here. Go right back to layout. Let's go back here. And let's click that button again, because that did work. Now that's easy. In fact, you might not even need perspective warp to straighten a building. What I love about it is changing the perspective. Now if I come down to this point right here and move it, these are still independent. And here's the trick. Come over to this line, hold the Shift key down until it turns yellow, and then click on it. Now that does two things. If it wasn't perfectly vertical, it is now. But the other part is in perspective. Watch this. If I come down here and move this point left or right, it locks the top one in and allows me to literally change the perspective where the photograph was taken. And if you look closely, it's not just stretching the stuff out. It's working with complex algorithms to decide what it would have looked like if the photographer had changed positions. That's why I like this thing so much. It gives you total control over what you're doing. Now you can even change it by foreshortening it. Whatever you want to do to change what you think this image will be, and understand we're not talking about a formula. Well, it's got to be 27 degrees because of this, that, or the other. We're talking about you. You are the photographer. You are the designer. What looks good to you? Now let's say you like that. You can set it by clicking right here, or you can say, I wish I'd never done anything, and click here to get out of it. Oh, there you go. If I turn it on and off, you can see the before and the after. Perspective Warp is an amazing tool, brand new to Photoshop CC, literally allowing you to get back into the third dimension and change the position of where the photograph was taken. Well, that's about it. This is Andy Anderson saying keep learning. And don't forget, guys, to make sure you check out the other videos on our Creative Cloud Learning site.